Well, hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to the AI for Everyone podcast. My name is Harrison Painter, and today's topic, it's a good one, especially when we're talking AI, the human element around AI. And I have the perfect guest. His name is Steven Puri. Now, what makes Steven the perfect guest? Well, he's got the perfect combination, his background. He's worked at a very high level in film and television and creative production. He also comes from a deep engineering and technical background. And that combination is perfect when we find ourselves at this very weird intersection where creativity, technology, and culture, they're all colliding at the same time and in real time. Steven's also the founder of a company called Suka, and he deals with remote teams, with creatives, with knowledge workers, and he finds himself on the front line of how AI is impacting remote work and all those optimization pressures that are reshaping how people create, collaborate, and even relate to each other. And understand today's topic here, we're not talking tools, we're not talking trends. This is about what happens when we optimize everything except for the most important thing, and that's the human part of it. If you find value in this conversation, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe button. And if you have any questions for Steven, leave those in the comment section or reach out to me. I'll make sure Steven gets those questions and get those answered for you. But let's get to the conversation because this is going to be a good one. Welcome to the program.
Well, thank you for having me. I hope this is engaging and maybe educational.
Well, I tell you what, you have a very unique perspective that a lot of folks don't have because your background, you've worked in television, in film, your
Mhm.
parents, I believe, are even software engineers. Is that correct?
My mom was a software engineer at IBM. My dad was a hardware engineer, so designed
Hard.
logic chips, CPUs.
So you've come from engineering minds and creative minds and combine that. So you have a very unique perspective here. You have a company called Suka,
Hmm.
correct?
Correct.
And this company, explain exactly what this company does. I think the folks will really be interested in what you have to say.
I appreciate your opening this way. So, a lot of what I saw in both the film, which is a creative business, but is deeply technical, and in tech, which is a technical business that is also creative, was the way in which high performers did great things. And a lot of it came down to flow states, which are an ability to drop into a deep, concentrated state, do your work faster, block distractions naturally, and at the end of it, feel uplifted as opposed to depleted. And so we took the research made by a lot of smart people. We can talk about that if you'd like. And we said, how do we just bundle all these disparate things into one website with a big play button? So when you start work, you just hit play, it blocks your distractions, it plays, focus music for you, it tracks you and gives you feedback like an Aura ring or Apple, rings kind of thing. So that's what Suka is. It's a website that helps you get into flow, do your work faster, get done.
I love it. We all need that focus and a healthy focus
It's
at
about
that,
being healthy. Yes, exactly.
about being healthy. Now, before we even get into the AI portion of the program, I
Ooh,
think we need to talk to the remote
let's do it.
concept of remote work because this is
Yes.
under the gun right now. We're
Hmm.
seeing corporate CEOs that are saying we want people back to the office.
Yes.
And we know there's multiple reasons for that, but one of them is there are some scientific behavioral studies that say it is healthy to have a routine, the community at the office, the interaction with other humans. So
Hmm.
we know that's an important piece.
Agreed.
On the other hand, smaller companies like you and me, we can't afford to bring in top talent from around the world, but we can absolutely hire and work with them remotely. We can
Hmm.
do more, we can be more productive, we can have larger teams for less money, and I think we save a lot of time because we're not in the car. You and I both lived in Los Angeles. The commute was brutal. Yeah,
Crushing.
I would spend 2, 3 hours a day sometimes in my in my car. That's
Yes.
wasted time. So where do you see this divide? Where do you think that healthy balance is with all this, and where do you see us going?
Okay, that is a robust question, and you set the table very well. So for those playing along at home, give me 3 minutes because there are a couple levels of the answer. Okay. So you brought up the bifurcation of, well, small companies this and big companies that. And I agree with you. Some of the benefits of remote and hybrid work, you have a global talent pool, right? Oh my God, there's this great designer in Dubai who doesn't want to leave Dubai. There's this software engineer in Montreal. You can work with them now, right? So talent benefits, lifestyle, you're not wasting your time in your car. The things you brought up, spot on. Some of these are more true for smaller companies and larger companies, but I would say this is how I break it down, which is slightly differently. Because I am, yes, a fan of remote and hybrid work, but also recognize there are things that happen in person that are magical. And I think it really comes down to what is the job to be done? And I have, yes, run remote companies, distributed teams, asynchronous teams, whatever you'd like to call it. There are benefits to that. Really, the way I see it is what is the job function, right? Because, for example, if I am a dev, if I'm an engineer, or I am a kind of designer or maybe a blogger or something, some of the deep work that I do that actually moves things forward, that comes from time spent alone. That comes from how can I be in an environment that encourages me to do the great thing, right? You're doing knowledge work. Very different than being in BD or sales and you're dialing for dollars, or you're in, the C-suite and you have board meetings all the time and you have investor meetings and stuff like that, right? So really there's an important thing about what is the job to be done and how is that best done? So when you look at it that way, you might say, okay, deep work, as Cal Newport would say, yields a certain kind of benefit for the company. Like it builds value. I always joke about, Harrison, if you walked into the staff meeting and I was like, hey, okay, everybody stand up. What do you do? And you said, oh, inbox zero, I returned all my Slack messages. Who gives an F, right? No company won because of inbox zero. But if you say, you know what, yesterday I had 3 hours with no one bugging me, and I thought about this solution to our retention problem, and then you pull up a prototype, I had time to build this. And everyone in the meeting pivots their heads and goes, oh, shit, what he said. We should do that now. Like that changes our company. That's really how companies win. And you don't get that necessarily for being around the water cooler and being like, hey, Joe, do you see those Pacers play this weekend? It's awesome and it bonds you, but it's different kind of value that you build. So I think that's really important. Now, here's the thing is I have a ton of people in Suka, which is a flow state app. It's a website. There's a community in there. I happen to love that community. It's all people who are focused, supportive of each other, want to do something with their lives, do something with their companies. So I end up talking to a lot of leaders. So the RTO push that you're talking about, you are correct. There are many factors. Sometimes RPO is just a cover story for I want to do layoffs, right? I can shed 10% of my workforce just by forcing them to have to move to where Cincinnati, right? But when you really dig down with a lot of leaders, what I have, what you find is fear. I don't know Tuesday at 3 p.m. what Harrison's doing if I cannot see him. If we are not under the same fluorescent bulbs 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, I really don't know what he's doing. And I'm going to tell you this. That is a hiring problem. Because if as a leader, you do two things. You state your mission. We are here to cure cancer. We are here to create electric vehicles. We're here to make great romantic comedies. And you do the second thing, which is you declare a set of values, a culture. This is how we're going to treat each other. This is how we're going to treat our customers. This is how we're going to treat our competitors. If you do those two things well, you attract people into the company where you do not have to worry at 3 p.m. on Tuesday, what are they doing? Because if you come to me and you go, Steven, I watched my grandmother die of cancer. This is why I got my postgraduate degree in oncology. I am here to move the ball down the field. I know what you're doing Tuesday at 3. And if you've had 5 jobs in 6 years and you surf Indeed every morning and you hit me up, I would be an idiot to hire you.
Why do you think it's so hard for companies, whether it's hybrid or not, remote, in person, to build culture? Because when you look at a lot of companies, I mean, the one that always comes to mind for me is Zappos. I mean, they created such an incredible culture.
True.
Why do you think that? I mean, we have data, we've optimized everything under the sun.
Mhm.
Why have we not been able to optimize culture?
People are good at different things. Antonio, for example, yes, even though the end of his story was not a pleasant one, he definitely had a sense of how you take care of people. Now, let's be honest. There is a certain amount of I get promoted because I'm very good at this skill that leads to that Peter principle of like you stop getting promoted when you're suddenly not that good at your job, right? So because you may be a 10x engineer, when you become the engineering manager, it may not play to your strengths. You may really need to be like the race car driver behind the wheel, not suddenly the team leader in the pits trying to determine how much fuel to put in the car and how many tires to change. You know what I mean? Like, so you need to consider, where are we taught culture? And a lot of people are promoted to a point where they need to be creating culture, they need to be leaders, but they weren't necessarily trained on that. And often the reason they're promoted was because they're good at something else, which is not culture, which is being an IC, right? So
Right.
some people, yes, you can quote, Tony Hsieh. He had a sense of people. He had a sense of how to deliver an emotion. And there are some people who are great at that, but it's not necessarily part of the promotion path in most companies.
Okay, so now back to remote work a bit and the
Mhm.
isolation piece of it.
Yeah.
America and other countries, I mean,
Mhm.
if you study things, are having a very serious, and we're not going to talk politics, but we are going to talk about the division factor that's happening. And
Oh
when
my
people
God.
are in
Yes.
isolation,
Yeah.
what happens, right? They get into their feeds
Yeah.
and they get this confirmation bias. And we do know we have AI enemies out there that are feeding into this to get us angry, to make us hate each other, to put all that out.
Yeah. Oh, but it's just engagement, Harrison, to create
It's just
shareholder value.
this is where maybe, and look, I'm a remote worker guy, right? So for me to go in the office 5 days a week in a commute, that's a
Yeah.
prison sentence for me. But I do see a point where it gets you out of that bubble a little bit, gets you around other humans. Because the one thing I've noticed,
Hmm.
all the stuff I see online, I know it exists, I know it's real. But when
Right.
I'm typically in a room of people, I don't see any of that. I
Yeah.
usually see loving, caring people that are working hard, that they might have differing politics, but they still get along, they still produce, they still create, and nobody seems to be hating each other in that in-person room.
There was that retrospective study in the Harvard Gazette about peanut allergies.
I haven't
And
seen it.
it's one of those that has been brought up with me enough times that I read it, and talks about a doctor, written from the point of view of a doctor who was dealing with one of his colleagues who was from Africa, who came here and said, "Oh my God, I was on the plane and there was like a peanut in the aisle or something left there, and it was this calamity where they had to cleanse the plane before people could get on because of peanut allergies and asphyxia and this whole thing." And he said, as soon as I got here, there were more. When he went to the restaurant to have their lunch, the first question was, "Does anyone have a peanut allergy or something else?" He said, "What is it with you Americans?" And there's a series of studies going back to the '90s about this thing of like peanut allergies, right? And what the Gazette talks about is they said there was a misinterpreted study about, and it's one of those like causal problems, is that the study was interpreted to mean, oh, all these children have peanut allergies. You need to keep them away from peanuts. They're going to kill them. Peanuts will kill them. And the person who authored the study, whom they interviewed, said, "No, my study was to show you that the mothers who actually expose themselves and their kids to peanuts at a very early age didn't have any incidence of peanut allergies. And it's been twisted in this wrong way." And I think it's the same thing with divergent views, with divergent skin colors and cultures. It's like, instead of, like you said, the division of like, you must stay away from this other culture, people, thing, idea, it is, hey, man, my 3-year-old should realize there are people living in Africa and in Europe and in Asia that have maybe different religious views and different values and different foods, and they should know about it, not an us and them thing. So yeah, I completely think it's about exposure. I'll send you a
Yeah.
link to the Harvard Gazette piece. It's really good.
Yeah, I'd love to read it. Love to read it. Now, let's talk AI, because that is the elephant in the room when we talk about remote workers, when we talk about knowledge workers. Right now, it seems like when we talk about workers,
Yeah.
you have the
AI stands for anonymous Indians, right?
yes,
Wasn't that a builder.ai where they were like, oh, you're running AI? And they're like, no, we have a farm of Indian devs who write this stuff. And we pass it off as AI.
and it's done. So you've got some tech elites that are using some dangerous language, in my opinion, but things
Mhm.
that are very forward thinking when they say that work has to be redefined, human production has to be redefined, all these things, right? Andrew Yang talking again about universal basic income because it's going to have such an impact on the workforce. Before recording, we talked about Bernie Sanders coming out saying this is going to impact 100 million jobs. Jim Farley, Ford CEO, Walmart CEO, both coming out saying at least half of white collar jobs are going to be obliterated by 2030. So we have this big elephant in the room. Now, I speak AI to audiences
Mhm.
every day, and I
Yes.
can tell you 80 to 90% of the population has no clue that this is even going on.
Hmm.
So elephant in the room, you work heavily in this field with remote
Hmm.
workers, with creatives. Look, one of the first strikes was the writer strike in Hollywood,
Yeah.
dealing with
You
AI
remember that.
writing and likenesses and synthetic voices and synthetic images. We've seen Star Wars where they brought back Princess Leia, some other people we just saw with Sora 2, Robin Williams, those videos, his
Oh, yeah.
daughter was very, very upset about it. Now we're in uncharted waters where, of course, I maybe seeing an icon is something really cool for me for nostalgia, but that icon has kids, has grandkids, maybe has a wife, whatever. And this is going to impact them in a much different way than you or I,
Hmm.
because no matter what we want to believe, they're human, normal people too.
Hmm.
So, where are things right now in your world with who you work with? And where do we see things going? Look, I can't say 3 to 5 years or even 10 years, but over the next couple of years, what do you see happening here?
Well, let's pull back for one moment and put on a wider lens on the camera, okay? Which is right now, people are conflating AI, artificial intelligence, with LLMs. And people are saying AI this, da, 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 okay? LLMs are a glorified version of Google autocomplete. They happen to be trained on a very large data set to say, instead of like, ooh, the next character you're probably going to type in your Gmail compose is S, right? Instead, they're saying, the next word you probably would think of is this, because probabilistically it's that. Or the next idea would probably be this. So it's just a glorified version of autocomplete. And this is where the distinction comes up with humans, right? So having worked with a lot of screenwriters, I'm going to draw a parallel here. I'm going to tell you, when you're a senior executive, Fox, DreamWorks, wherever, right? 5 to 10 times a week, you're sitting around the coffee table in your office with some writers and a producer who are pitching you something, right? Most of those people, they write from movies they have seen. Oh, well, this is kind of like the scene in Blade Runner, but then we have that, cantina scene from Star Wars, and we do that, you're right. And that's what they write from. And I'm going to tell you, there are maybe, in my experience in doing only action, my genre is action, right? Big summer movies. There are maybe a dozen, maybe 15 writers that write from a deep understanding of human nature. They don't write because they've seen it in a movie. They write because they understand people. That is a big
Yeah.
distinction because LLMs are much like that former group of 2,000, 3,000 writers that write a movie that gets made because they've seen a bunch of movies, right? They're like, maybe they rip off an older movie that people have forgotten about. Like there's a black and white version of this. Like, I don't know if you ever heard about this, but someone as a test took Casablanca, the classic movie,
Yes.
and they rewrote it to be in space. Same fucking movie, right? Pardon my French. And they sent it out to development executives, like 80 or 90 development executives in Hollywood. 6 of them recognized it as Casablanca. The rest were like, oh, what a clever idea, right? So
Wow.
that is really how I view the LM thing, which is, yes, there are absolutely tasks that right now can be done better. We were talking about it, on a previous conversation, but this can and should be done better by something that can do rote, probabilistic matching of patterns it's seen and give you back an answer, right? And there hopefully is still space for humans to go, actually, you would never think of peanut butter and chocolate together, but I thought of that. And it's kind of interesting. And that is where hopefully we apply ourselves now. Now, again, there will be breakthroughs in the future where there is some sort of intelligence that is not human that starts to do that kind of outside the pattern, you know, thinking.
Right.
But it's not today. And that's really why we're surrounded by, what do you want to call it? Brain rot, AI slop, like because it is like someone eating their own feces and just regurgitating it. And it's just like, okay, it's this continual cycle of, I saw this pattern, I read it. Every blog post reads like every other blog post, which really reads like every other LinkedIn post now, every other video on LinkedIn on AI, it's awful.
Yeah, it's funny you said I just took the wife to we have an old art craft theater in a
Ooh,
city south of Indianapolis, and it's an old 1920s Art Deco, and they still show film on 35 millimeter projector.
wow.
And I took her to see Interview with a Vampire, Tom
Oh my
Cruise.
God. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Brad Pitt and yeah, Kirsten Dunst, yeah.
My wife had never seen it before, so she watched it, but she's a big fan of what's the movie with Edward the vampire, the
Oh, the Twilight
trilogy?
series.
Twilight. She's a huge fan of Twilight.
Yeah,
She said, "That's
right.
basically Twilight
Exactly.
without the werewolf. Like, it's half of Twilight."
Exactly.
And it hit me because I never pieced that together either, right? But then I started thinking about kind of the decline of Hollywood over the last decade. And then you start thinking about, and by decline, what I mean is we have optimized to the point where movies started becoming solely about profit only. So there's a formula. And then all of a sudden, I've got 347 Marvel movies that are basically the same.
Yeah.
And where's the next being John Malkovich, right? But there's no funding for that because
Correct.
it's not guaranteed, or at least statistically guaranteed, to make money. Well, that's my fear with AI, right? Is
Spot
if
on.
you over
Spot
optimize, now
on.
you take the human element out of it, and I no longer have a piece of art that's flawed, and the beauty is always in the flaws.
Mhm.
Right, there's
Yeah.
whole websites that are all to find the little gaffe, to find the problem in each film where
Mhm.
you screwed up a shot or somebody was in the background or whatever. With optimization or with AI, you're not gonna have that anymore. So I think we're gonna have subgenres come out even as AI will take off, and the masses will adopt it to a point. We're always gonna have to have human film, human story, human writing,
Okay,
all of those things.
you have struck a chord with me, and I can't not say this, okay? So buckle up. You are absolutely right what you said about the evolution of film. Now, here's the thing is, when you have that Neo moment in the Matrix where you see the ones and zeros and you get it, you're like, "Oh my god, okay, I got it." You have that breakthrough, you get it. You understand that Die Hard, a movie about a guy who loses his wife because he's a jumper shooter, kicker, blue collar guy to a rich, world that he can't fit in. And he's only going to get her back if she ever needs a shoot, kick, jump, punch guy, right?
Mm,
And what happens? There,
yeah, she gets
Alan Rickman
kidnapped.
shows up and she loves him because he can do that. Taken is the exact same movie with the daughter. Oh, I lost my daughter to this rich stepdad, but she would love me if she needed a guy who could run and jump and kick and shoot like I can do and stepdad can't do. Daughter gets kidnapped. They're basically fantasy movies about men who feel displaced by rich men, right? Blue collar men. It's the exact same movie. So when you start to see that, yes, what you just said about, or your wife said about Twilight and Interview with a Vampire and the Avenger movies, it is like they are all the exact same movie. Now, why is that? We call that out because movies are very prominent in pop culture. It goes back through narrative fiction. We're talking Plato is like, hey man, there are like two stories, well, maybe three, maybe four. You know what I mean? Like there are not that many stories because what is true for us as humans? Stories of families.
Right.
Like when we did, if you ever saw Star Trek 11, the first one with Chris and Zach, when we did that, the story is simply Cain and Abel. That is
Right.
the organizing principle of that movie. It is two brothers who are going to kill each other. And if you notice, Kirk and Spock lose the movie until they have it out with each other. And once they make their peace, they can win the movie, right? So a lot of these movies are around that sense of, okay, what's a family story here? Because that's relatable. You can add photon torpedoes. You can add the guy turns big and green when he gets angry. You could add these things to it. But fundamentally, it's like, oh, this is the story of, some brothers and sisters who have to go fight the neighboring, the Hatfields and McCoys. Oh, but in this case, he has an Iron Man suit and he has a green thing and God knows what other, superpowers they have, right? So I say all this because you were totally right. We cast our stones at film because it's a very obvious way of going, you guys are just regurgitating the same patterns. And it's been around, 100 years now. So we see those patterns. Now, here's the thing it is solely because people vote for that. Having been the evil studio executive, I will tell you, I tried to make original films. And like when I was at Fox, my boss, who's the chairman of Fox Films Entertainment, was very clear. He's like, make Die Hard 5 because we can budget exactly. We have projections that'll tell you opening weekend what it will make, no matter if the movie is good or bad. Make it for less than that, and we are in the black by Sunday night. We all keep our jobs, right? That's the way it is. People complain, but they get what they vote for with their dollars. So they see Avengers 19 and it makes more money than the new Being John Malkovich kind of movie, you're going to get
Yeah.
Avengers 20, period. Right?
Yeah.
Now, where does that leave us with, as you said, AI? And I'm going to say here, generative AI. Let us hope the following happens. With films, for example, the kind of movies that I worked on, it is $100 million up just to get a seat at the table, right? Just to gamble on your movie making in the box office. You need a lot of people to buy in to get $100, $200 million to do that. What happens when, your grandkids or my grandkids or something can basically make that after school? They're like, I have an idea for a movie and they can generate it. And suddenly the idea, the risk goes way down. Maybe you do have people who are able to experiment and make those Being John Malkoviches because they don't have the pressure of it having to bear that scrutiny of like 19 accountants approving your $200 million budget. Wouldn't that be cool? And then maybe stuff does bubble up. Maybe the upside of this is, yes, one of our kids makes that movie. And the algorithm sees that people actually watch it through all 120 minutes and they go, well, this must be good. We're going to surface it more, right? Because it's getting more
Right.
engagement than the AI slop. That would be super cool. I told you I'd buckle in.
Yeah.
That was a long answer.
I think we are two years away from a Blair Witch Project moment
Yeah.
where somebody does create something really cool that tells a great story that people will bond with. And I'm with you on that. Look, I just gave a talk at the Indiana Filmmakers Network, even though this isn't
Oh,
my world.
nice.
And as I did the research, I realized, look, Charlie Chaplin was not happy when sound came. Right? And then the studio heads were not happy when films went to color because it's going to be more expensive, right, to do color
Yeah.
film. And then the televisions came out and everybody thought cinema was going to be over. And then CGI came out and this was going to be
Home
the
video.
end of any
Don't forget
type
home
of,
video. They're also terrified of home video.
and every time people still want to be entertained and there's nothing better
Yeah.
in my mind than
Yeah.
moving pictures.
Yeah.
So I don't see that genre ever going away, but I do struggle a bit with, is the quality going, maybe we're just going to take this downfall in quality for a period of time and then we'll have that Blair Witch Project moment. Everything will start to fix itself. But like I've taken up film photography because I'm so deep in this AI world that I want to
Yeah.
keep a foot into some form of art that's analog, that's, I hate to say it like this, but is feels more real.
Yeah. Hold on.
Right?
This is the same guy who posted the Sora watermark remover on his Twitter feed.
I
Busted.
like to have fun. I mean, what I love about Sora, since you brought that up,
Yes.
and there's a couple things I want to even say about that and get your thoughts on it because
Yeah.
you've worked in that field and you understand copyright and likeness and all that stuff.
Yeah.
OpenAI is not stupid. So when Sora came out, you could do JFK, Robin Williams,
Oh, yeah.
we saw Martin Luther King doing Racist Joe. We saw all this stuff
Yeah.
that is over the top.
Hmm?
Has been here before with the first Sora release and everything else.
Hmm?
Why would they do this? Now, one, it's unethical, but they're in a race with Google. They're in a race with everybody else.
What
It
is this
created
word
a
you
lot of
use?
buzz.
What is this word? Unethical? What does that mean?
Unethical.
What does that mean?
I don't know anymore.
I've heard this word before in poems. What is it?
I don't know anymore.
Yeah, no one does. It doesn't
But
matter. Shareholder
who's
value is
going to
what
sue them?
matters.
Who's going to
Shareholder
sue them? I
value.
mean, maybe the studios have some money, but does anybody right now have more money than OpenAI and political power? So they know they're in this power seat.
Yeah.
So that leads me to this because even companies or organizations like the World Economic Forum have said
Hmm?
you will own nothing in the future, right? And we're already renting, we're subscribing.
Yeah.
Copyright seems to be going away, ownership seems to be going away.
Mhm.
Do you really think that's the future where we create things and nobody owns anything that they create?
Um, Sadly, it has a lot to do with how well that is enforced. And what you just said is really the end of the argument, which is unethical doesn't mean anything. What matters is it policed? And we live in a world right now where it is anything goes. It is I can as long as I can get away with this, I'll do it because it's shareholder value. So yes, if it's a race between Meta, who has been shown to have absolutely no morals, and OpenAI, and I mean I know Anthropic is trying to be the white hat here, but
Right.
ultimately they all have huge investors who have ties to Washington, and David Sachs is making it very clear, hey guys, man, it is the Wild West. We're taking down any rules, any enforcement. Just do what you need to do. Just go for it. And please get us some exits because David Sachs just basically talks his book. That's all he does.
Right.
Whoever's in his portfolio, he just talks it up.
So one more question before we get to the speed round.
Mhm.
And that's this. How can people, and you might not even have an answer for this,
Mhm.
how can people at least attempt to protect themselves, their intellectual property, or even just their job?
Going back to the beginning of our conversation, and I'm telling you, I'm not a guru on this, but I have a point of view. It is that the portion of what you do that is rote pattern matching from the past is worthless now. Focus on what you do that is original thought. That's it. Because
That's it.
the machines already do the former better and they're coming for the latter,
That's great advice. I
you
just
know?
hope enough people take it
Yeah.
because I'm just fearful. If we truly have a society where even 30% were unemployed, can you imagine how chaotic?
Why do you think they're behind universal basic income? Because they see it coming and
Yeah.
there's not a great solution. It's like if we have masses of unemployed people, do we just give everyone some money just to exist? Um, that has to. You brought up music. Let me say one more thing. Is remember you brought up entertainment and music and how this whole thing works? Is yeah, there was an era when musicians made money from album sales. You toured just to promote the album sales.
Right.
Now it is flipped. The musicians, because after Napster, after Spotify came in and iTunes and all that, the money is not in album sales. Now the album sales are just there to say, please come to my concert, where Ticketmaster is helping us gouge you, and we're making the money off concerts. So that's
Yeah.
how that flipped, and that means original effort. Taylor, for all her faults and strengths, she's got to go and sing and dance her way across that stage every night to make her $1 billion. It's not album sales.
I know we're running over, but it would be a crime if I didn't bring this topic up
Oh no, this is
because you
the thing
just
in
brought up
Barovia.
Live Nation concerts. You work in entertainment. So I think getting your point of view on this would be really valuable.
Ooh,
I was scrolling through and a Kid Rock video stopped me to scroll the feed because he was talking about the Live Nation, everything that you were talking about,
Bob Ritchie.
gouging the artists, the tickets, the everything, right? And Trump had signed some executive order, I guess, a while ago to go after him or whatever.
Yes.
But what caught my attention was he said, "But let me turn my phone around."
Mhm,
And he turned his phone around and there was an orb sitting
mhm,
there.
yeah,
And he said, "This is the answer." Now, again, not talking politics, but we're talking about somebody who is an absolute MAGA conservative
yes.
who just spun around to an orb
Mhm.
that is designed to scan your eyeball
Mhm.
to give you access to whatever you need access to.
Mhm.
Does not sound like kind of a conservative value to me, right? So, what do you think about that? Because come to find out, this orb, it's a company called World that used to be WorldCoin
Yeah.
that is
That's behind Sam
co-founded
Altman's thing.
by
Yeah.
Sam Altman.
Yeah.
What do you think
Familiar with
about
it. It's sort of like standing right down river from the dam that's burst. What do you think about water? Well, it doesn't really matter what I think about water because the dam burst and the water's coming, you know? So, yes, you have, I'm not sure about the liberal conservative distinction you make because right now we do have a world where Peter Thiel's, Palantir, Flock, ICE, MAGA, like the
that?
surveillance state is absolutely here. Defense tech with drones that monitor you, the Salesforce offering to help ICE. I mean, come on.
Remember, I live in Indianapolis. They threatened to leave over Mike Pence, and I believe it was a gay marriage bill or something that was something along
Yeah.
those lines. And Salesforce threatened to move out of Indy. And then when I saw that story, I'm like,
How the world has changed.
make it make sense.
Yeah. So there, I don't think there's really a question in what you're saying, which is yes, this is a
Yes.
surveillance state, and it is not just the old days, which seem quaint, of like, oh, Facebook's cookie has figured out every website you've ever been on, and they have a profile on you, and they allow advertisers to basically steal your data by looking as if they're going to place ads, like Cambridge Analytica, right? I mean, that
Right.
seems like child's play compared to the way it is now. Like my neighborhood has flock cameras because someone on the HOA was like, "Oh, we should do this for security in case bad people come into our neighborhood." Flock reports to ICE. So now every time my wife and I drive in and out of our neighborhood, it gets reported to the government.
It's
Kind of weird,
crazy.
kind of weird
It's
thought.
weird.
Here
It's
we
not the
are.
world I signed up for, I'll tell you that.
I'm just saying.
Let's
Watch
end
your
on a
midget
positive
porn.
note with the speed round. How's that?
Ooh, okay, I'm ready. Let's do it.
So the speed round, 5 questions. Just give me a one word or one
Yep.
sentence answer
Yeah.
quickly, and we're
I
gonna
get
have
it.
some
Speed
fun with
round.
it.
I know.
What's the first AI tool that you use every morning?
My own app, Suka.
I love the plug. I love it.
You want an honest answer? I fire up Suka every morning when I start work. It's before I open anything.
Harder to direct, actors or algorithms?
Mm. To get a great performance right now, algorithms, but to get obedience, actors.
One AI trend that you think is total hype.
Oh my god, the slop you see right now, like whether it is in text or in image or in sound, it's a wave of stuff where people are going to become inured to being thrown these repetitive sort of moments.
Well, I know the answer to this one. Who's more creative? Well, it's a little twist for you. Pixar or Sora 2?
Oh, come on.
Puts
Who's
you in
the
a
greater
position,
painter,
doesn't
Picasso or my 3-year-old? Don't
it?
know. My 3-year-old's got some really good finger paints.
All right, and the last one. One word that describes the next decade of work.
Confusion. Confusion.
Confusion. I'm
Yeah.
with you on that. Well, I appreciate you coming on. This was good. I learned a
Harrison, this was
lot, I
great.
think.
I
This
hope
was
this was
amazing.
fun for the listeners, if the ones playing along at home.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I told you that was going to be a good one. All right. Well, if you found value in today's show, please hit the like button, subscribe button, bell notification, all that kind of good stuff. Leave a comment in the comment section. Did you find this valuable? What's your opinion on all of this? I would love to hear from you. And of course, if you have a question for Steven, leave that in the comment section as well. I'll make sure that he gets those. If you're a remote worker, any of those things, definitely visit Suka and make sure to reach out to Steven on LinkedIn as well. All right, well, that's it for me today. My name is Harrison Painter. This has been the AI for Everyone podcast. And until next time, keep creating, keep innovating, and most importantly, keep up. God bless.
NVIDIA sparking, AGI unleashed, Jensen tearing down walls, the future's a beast. What? Humans built this world, but AI breaks that mold. There's a supercomputer with secrets yet told. We're committed to the rise, training 1 million people under analog skies. No shadows here, we're running out loud, living for the moment, standing out in the crowd, yeah! Feel the rhythm, it's in our veins, we're wired for this, breaking the chains. Master the machines before Optimus takes control. Fuel the fire, hope the energy holds. What? Raise your glass, we're here to stay. Drink to the future, come what may. Ride the machine, no slowing down. Yeah, yeah. Feel the energy, own this town.